Yeah, so like if you're looking at this for the first time and you're like, okay, I know it's a carburetor, I've got to clean it. The best thing I can tell you is take this piece off. Do not take apart this piece, the two springs and the screw. Even though you have the screw here and you would like to take that off, it's not necessary. Like Terrell says, it's not rocket science. It's not NASA. It's not going to the moon. It's a freaking 2-cycle outboard. Okay, excuse the mess. I got construction going on, like 4,700 projects going at one time. I got all these screws from taking stuff down, put some extra insulation in, put a ceiling up. Got some other wire laying here that I need to put up. Anyway, it's crazy. It's like, what in the world? Solder sucker. Here's some jumper. Here's some, I had to go, I don't know what I do with my bins, so then I had to go buy some, flux and some more solder. And here's one of my screwdrivers. Anyway, what I'm doing is, I want to do a video. This is a 1977 Evinrude 35 horsepower. So it's going to be 1977 Johnson Evinrude and 25 to 35 horsepower. This is a complete carburetor. And this one will throw you a little bit, or it did me, and I don't even know why. Maybe that's the general deal, but I don't know why it threw me, but it did. So this is obviously one with a choke assembly, and then it's like it has a manual choke, which I have off right now. That's right here, and it's held by a screw. It just kind of does this thing. And so when you take these off, the engine, the only thing you really got to do is take off the cable, the electrical cable. It fits right here. You unscrew that little screw, hang on to it, and then you're going to take off the 2 1/2-inch bolts that are here. And the other one is on the other side here. All right, you're going to take those off, and then this is pretty much going to slide out. On the front of the carb, you got to take that stuff off too. You got to take the air box. Is going to be held by 2 screws, and if it has a gasket, great. If it doesn't have a gasket, fine. Won't hurt anything if it doesn't have a gasket. Do not take this linkage off until you get the carburetor out. If you had to take this linkage off, like you think, man, I've got to take my choke. So you can disconnect the manual choke. This is my advice for these. And then you can take this plunger off. It's held on by this little plastic, it's just a little plastic, we call it grommet, something. If you break this, you could use a small nail that you could, or a cotter pin would work. But anyway, that pops out. You can also do this. You can take this out. This is a cotter pin. It needs a little more. Anyway, that's not going to get in the way. And we'll even make sure that this won't go into that rubber housing. So underneath here is just, there's a spring, plunger. This fits over the top. This is made so you can adjust it in or out. If you take all this linkage off, it will drive you insane. And do like I did and just get all gung-ho about it. Yeah, so like if you're looking at this for the first time and you're like, okay, I know it's a carburetor. I've got to clean it. The best thing I can tell you is take this piece off. Do not take apart this piece, the two springs and the screw. Even though you have the screw here and you would like to take that off, it's not necessary. The best thing to do is you can actually leave this on, okay? But to take it off, it's real easy. It just pops out and, it does something like, this and pulls out. So that one's easy. And all this does is just kind of open the throat a little more when you choke it, it's going to pull this forward, right? And it's going to open the throttle plate a little bit and give it some gas. So it's choking, more fuel. All you have to do is take apart the plunger part of it. And then take this little throttle arm out. And then you can take the carburetor off. There is one other one that looks like this. So you got three. You got 1, 2, 3. So this one is just a horseshoe. And it goes right here. I'm leaving it off I'll put it on whenever I get out there. And then this one, like I said, it looks like that. So anyway, when this goes in, see, it just gives it a little extra shot of fuel. So this one's going to be curved this way, and then this one's going to be like an S curve, I guess. But this is what you want to do. Now you have to release this pin, and you have to pull the cotter pin, and then this piece comes up. That was about a 4-hour journey for me trying to figure out how these two springs work, because I just took them off. I didn't even look at them. I don't know why. I just thought it would be really simple. I just kind of looked at it, glanced at it, made some notes, and then I just went to town. And then it didn't want to go. Now, doing the springs, if you do take this off, this is how it's going to go. There's a little, if you notice, there's a little piece of this lever that's sort of in an, I don't know what shape that would be, kind of curves this way and goes around. What happens is it's pushing this arm up. Now, I don't know why this confused me, but it did. This spring is going to be on the back side of this piece that goes up and goes down. And then that bottom of the spring rests right here in the bottom of here. All right, you can see what I'm talking about now. See, this part of the spring goes here, and then it comes around and it connects to this piece right here. So yeah, it comes down in here, and then it goes over to this piece right here, right there. See where I got my finger? Yeah, you see it? All right. And then the bottom piece, so this little throttle for the choke, this spring comes up through. There's a little bitty hole. See that? And that long spring comes up, and then it comes around. And if you look right there is where it catches. See it down there? Can you guys see it? See, it's right there. It's right there. Just right there. And that's how this kind of does. So then if you notice, our little lever is back here. And it's behind this piece. So when the plunger pulls it down, your flap closes. So you hit the choke button, it closes it. And then when you release, there should be spring on it, so this choke goes flat even. Another thing, on the air idle screw, set that to 1.5. I saw a bunch of forums, and one guy said 1.25 turns, but every Johnson I've ever worked on was always 1.5, and this is this same carburetor. So, and you got a jet that's in the fuel bowl. It's behind here. If you can't get it out, then, run like a guitar string through it after you've cleaned it. And this one, the float was all kind of wonky. The other thing is, so you got that jet, and then you got the Venturi going up through there. And other than that, they're pretty easy to clean. Replace the gaskets. Check your float pin. Blow on it when it's, so like, let's show you, I guess. All right, so take your carburetor, and when it's upside down, the float will be closed. If it's upright, then the float is gonna be towards the bottom of the carburetor. And you can hear air going through it, but it's kind of a feel thing. Like, I don't know, you just got to do it. You'll see what I'm talking about. But then when you turn it upside down, the float's on the bottom. We can't blow any air through it. But when it's like this, and just make sure your float is, like, when it's upside down, that it's level. Some guys are real hypercritical about, it needs to be like whatever, and it's not. It's like, what? No. Like Terrell says, it's not rocket science. It's not NASA. It's not going to the moon. It's a freaking 2-cycle outboard. Okay, 1977 Johnson Evinrude, 35 horsepower. Got the carb back on, got it all put together. This is the linkage, how it goes. Maybe we can move this a little bit so y'all can see a little better, maybe. I don't know. But we got our linkage arm from, this is how we actuate the throttle. And if we look down at our throat, we can see that we're closed right now. We'll have to adjust it with this nut right here, or this screw. And like I said, this gives it, like when it's a choke, full choke. So when we take the plunger and we apply choke, it's going to close the carburetor. Plunger closes the carburetor, and it gives it a little bit of throttle to give it a little bit of fuel. We let off, the choke lets off, throttle returns to normal, and then in fast forward, all the way fast forward, then we want our butterfly in here to be all the way open. So for timing on this motor, it's 0 degrees before, top dead center for idle, and then it's 34 degrees according to our airbox. It's 34 degrees, 1976, 35 horsepower, spark advance, 34 degrees. So nothing really different in those years. So you set your 34 degrees before top dead center. So we'll set our 34 degrees at wide open throttle. Almost said top dead center. Why? No, we're going to time this. So we're going to do our wide open throttle. It's going to be 34 degrees. For the Joe Reeves guys, that'll end up somewhere 28, 29 degrees with the modern fuels that we have. Even if you run non-ethanol fuel in it, it's not going to be 34 degrees. Made some marks on the flywheel, top dead center. 34 degrees. I've got some videos on how to do that, and you're going to need a timing light, and you're going to need something to, ground out your spark. So we've already done that. Got a carb installed. Yeah, I don't know. Throw some water in the tub and see what you'll do. Oh, I did put some new fuel line on. The other fuel line was looking pretty haggard, backing up. So we know that we got our lever on our remote is all the way wide open throttle. So you got to set the carburetor so that the butterfly is perfectly open all the way. To do that, you're going to loosen this set screw, and then you're going to push the carburetor in. You're going to be able to slide this back and forth. So when you loosen that set screw is how this is pushing against that butterfly. So this mechanism, you set the set screw, tighten it down, and now your butterfly is wide open. So when you find that 34 degrees, wide open throttle, is where we're going to then set our carburetor so that it's wide open throttle. Giving her all the beans you can give her. Then with your remote all the way at idle, we want to set this set screw so it just stops here. So it's completely stopped. I could probably move this so you can see it. There it is. So it's just going to stop. Now that stop is going to correlate to, up here we saw 2 dots that's on the trigger portion of the, which tells the spark plugs when to fire. You can see it, but there's 2 little notches right here. And so when we go back, to idle, we want to be with this cam between these 2 notches. Now I got a little bit of play, but I guess when the motor is kind of going, it pushes it. But I held tight my remote cable and that down there until I achieved these 2 notches right here in the middle of this cam. And with that being said, then on your carburetor, you're going to adjust so that this linkage here is going to have the butterfly closed on the carburetor. Anyway, I hope that helps because not a lot out there. Not yet anyway. Well, I don't think we're set right, but might have fixed my problem. So it does sound like there's a motor mount that's maybe a little wonky. Could be the boat. Don't know. Let's put the lid on it. Sometimes with the lid on, it changes the air-fuel ratio slightly. And I just would like to know what it's going to do when I do that. So I think we're gonna have to jump that up. Let's see what happens when I pull this off. See how it kind of jumped up just a hair? I think that's a little better, I don't know. Yeah. So you can tell that when you put the hood on, how it changes. So, start this again. Ah. Well, I may have to try to do this, but this is the part, it's so touchy. Ah. Well, folks, I think that's going to about do it for the 35 horsepower. And I'm going to call Terry and tell him to come get it and go take it out, take it for a spin. Hopefully it does really good for him. I think it's running just fine. So until next time, we'll see you. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you guys soon.